I was just gonna a general conversation really about. I was thinking about photos. It's a generic question really concerning, with social media. And we're living in this very photogenic age, and I see my family members and they're just taking loads and loads of photos, and the whole world's taking photos, and it feels like people are living their lives through images. And it's almost added another layer of illusion onto the already pre-existing illusion.
Yeah.
and yeah, no, I mean, I've been a culprit as well, and I've completely taken myself away. I've taken myself off social media platforms, and it's a feeling of, it's quite liberating to be fair. But just in photos, are we kind of, do you think that we're starting to build more of an unhealthy relationship with photos, and we're starting to become even more body identified and taking us away from our true nature? And it's going to be difficult for generations down the line to kind of, disentangle themselves from their body consciousness. Do you understand?
I do understand. No, I don't think that it can take you more away from non-duality, but I do think that what it's doing is it's creating lots of unhealthy attachments in the psychology of humans. So I think that the psychology of humans is, we're going to see a lot more depression and a lot more social anxiety, fear. I think that's what will begin to happen with social media, partly because of the dopamine, like constantly using dopamine by liking all these things and the short videos, and so we're releasing too much dopamine at a rapid rate. So it's partly, I don't really know too much the scientifics of it, so when I say this, I say it as if I'm like a scientist and really know, but I just know that that's not good for you. That's like eating sweets all day, or like, getting really big highs all the time. So I think that's not good for us. And then the next thing that's not good for us is that I think people are trying to find attachment and trying to find intimacy through that. And I think it will actually inevitably lead for a period of people being more lonely, because they're trying to find attachment and intimacy through something that's dead, like not alive. It's like a picture. It's like the social media. There's not really people. I mean, there is people doing it, but it's also not really. It's like having a relationship with an inanimate object in a way. So,
I agree.
So I think that on the psychological level, it's going to make people more unhealthy psychologically, with more abandonment and attachment issues. But I don't think it can take you away from this subject. And I also think, from my experience of being in the spirituality scene for over 20 years now, is that a lot of people that get into spirituality already have attachment issues. So they've normally had some suffering in their life, and had difficulties in relationship. And they're beginning to look to find a more free way of being. So in a way, maybe if society is suffering more, it will come more to non-duality. Like the Buddha's main one of the Buddha's Four Noble Truths is really seeing that life is suffering. So maybe if we breed more suffering, which I suspect we are doing, I suspect that I really think that we, like the younger generations, there's so many, like online bullying, like this fixation with the way people look, and also not being able to let go of things. Like my friend was saying, she was so happy that they didn't have social media when we were like teenagers, because we screwed up so many times, and then it wasn't all recorded and put on social media. I was able to be a teenager and really screw up, and really do stupid things and make mistakes, and it wasn't all recorded and documented on social media. Whereas teenagers now, it's like you've got to be perfect straight out of the womb. Otherwise, you're all over, like you're the fool or all over social media.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think because I look at my nephews and nieces and just the way that they interact when you don't know what's going on through their minds, but it just seems like the storyteller is gone into hyperdrive, into kind of, because as you said, you're plugged into the minds of thousands of people now, not just your peers. And that's what it's like, a worldwide thought network. And you're just consuming thoughts.
Yeah, totally.
Like on a mass scale, aren't you? And so the level of story is just increasing 100-fold, so but you're right. I'm optimistic about maybe this, could lead to a kind of, because we're so globally connected, the chance of a global awakening is greater as well.
And the thing is if people begin to feel more and more shit, then they can't actually just keep working and keep getting pleasures. So they'll have to look outside the box. Like, because there comes a point, when you have so much stress or you have so much discomfort where your body can't physically carry on with the treadmill. It can't have all these kids. It can't have this 60-hour week working or 80-hour week working, if that's possible. It can't have that and be suffering loads. The system will melt down. And so in that, as soon as that begins to happen, then the person's going to stop believing in capitalism as the solution and stop believing in things will make me happy. And then the questions will be asked, what does make me happy then? And we currently live in a free enough society that allows us to ask these questions. Not everybody, but the majority that are listening to these talks are living in a free enough society to, like the countries that aren't, I'm banned in, like there's some countries where the internet's controlled.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think you're right. I think there's definitely a great degree of optimism as well for like if there's an international shared sense of suffering, like we're all kind of plugged behind, experiencing suffering in a similar way, and there's an acknowledgement, there's a chance for like an antidote, like a sharing, a global solution. But I don't know whether that will come anytime soon. But it
could be quite rapid with computers, because
exactly,
the computer is getting quicker and quicker at mapping the mind,
Yeah.
So it could happen. My partner has told me about I've forgotten it now. He's a computer person. He's told me about so the growth of computers will just, it's like it will suddenly be exponential. Is that the word you say?
Exponential, exponential growth,
so we're going along, we're growing, and then suddenly there will be a massive shoot that will happen so quickly. And I don't think we're obviously at that yet. It feels like it's going really fast, like all our technology. But computers are almost writing books. Well, not books, stories actually. So they're almost writing stories. That's such fun. That's such a fundamental human quality, like to write a story. Like that's
absolutely.
So it's gonna. That's really interesting. That possibility of what's going to happen with computers.
Well, I've got this film idea, but funny enough, you mentioned that. So in terms of, can you imagine, because obviously computers, you're right, AI, they're able to imitate even making music. So there's lots of musical compositions out there that you will not be able to tell any difference. They're completely indistinguishable from anything that's created by a human. And because it's just purely based on pattern recognition. And music is like, at a base level, it's maths. So if like 99% of music, like it is kind of something that sounds similar to something else. So it's something that has been based on something that's already existed. So if computers were able to just emulate, and if not do a better job at making music, where would that leave human creativity? But I was thinking in terms of, if you are conscious, like if you had like a Neo or someone who could defeat the AI, who the AI could not predict, because they, that creative intelligence that even Eckhart Tolle talks about,
Yeah.
where it's coming from pure awareness. That would be interesting. So it's coming from that deeper space. I've always wondered why, Lisa, sorry, this segue into just last thing I want to say, why don't you get kind of non-dual or spiritual people in different realms outside of teaching, like, business leaders and create artists and musicians, because they would really put non-duality on the map.
Oh, you do. You do, but they just don't necessarily announce it.
But they're not.
Not Eckhart Tolle. Jim Carrey, he announces it quite publicly now. It's been gradual. It's been getting more and more.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
There is, like, I meet so many people, like business leaders, like like all different types of people, very successful in their own right. But a lot of people don't want to be connected with it on the internet, because then it maybe destroys their business.
Yeah, no, I get that. But music, for example, that's kind of that it's like an emotional drug that hits straight to the core of your emotions. And if you had a musician who saw life through through a non-dual lens, or whatever you want to call it, but they wanted to wield the power of music to inspire people to discover their true nature. You could that would be quite interesting. It's just do you understand?
I totally do, and I think it is there. I just think that it's not recognized, and that a lot of people aren't in that current frequency that want to resonate with it, so it's maybe not so popular. My teacher Roger, he used to say that, I don't know if I think this is true or not, but I thought it was interesting. He used to say that that all films and music that we're attracted to like resonate with a story that we're telling ourselves. So if you feel like maybe disempowered in life, like maybe you really like gangstery rap music that's really hardcore and really or heavy metal or something, and maybe you feel a lot of sadness, maybe you like something like Dido. So I don't know if there's necessarily that many people that would resonate with the music that comes from that deeper place.
Yeah, no, I think you can. It just has to be done skillfully. I think with music, it reflects a different emotional state. So there's a thing called the doctrines of ethos. They studied it way back in Greek civilization, how like music informs different scales, different melodies. Because there are major scales, minor scales. Instantly changes our mood. So there are different styles of music that create different emotions, emotional expressions, and they were studying how certain music actually kind of can inform our morality, our sense of ethics. Yeah. So they took it to that level. But I do think that there is music that orients you more towards God and your true nature, and other music which has got the potential to, so say for example, if you've got like a rapper and the music, and usually the kind of music's directed towards a rival person, it's that energy that they're using that's directed to kind of harm and cause insult to another person. But if you were to kind of use that same energy and kind of turn it on the ego, the self, you could spiritualize it in a way, and try and kind of channel it towards, not go to war with yourself, but like kind of like use it in a way that takes you towards your true nature. So I think there is a way if it's done skillfully, but no.
That's beautiful.
I do think music has a lot of power. We need a Taylor Swift that's enlightened, and then that will really put non-duality on the map.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Nice.
You know what you were saying about before about Tony Parsons?
Yeah. I don't know. What did I say again? about.
Sorry, you said Tony Parsons. I don't know. You went to one of his meetings. I've only come across Tony Parsons recently, so I think I told you before. I've only been on this non-dual scene for about a year,
Yeah.
and it's interesting to see all these different characters. And I'm completely being led by my intuition at the moment, and the resonance, as you said, that's a word that seems to be quite popular in the non-dual field, and where I find a resonance. And there are things that Tony Parsons says that I find a resonance with, but I don't find a resonance with him as a character. As in, I don't feel like I'm touched by grace or anything when I hear him. But then it's confusing, because then what he says contravenes what Rupert Spira says. And he'll say that, pure awareness, there's a duality, awareness, there's self-awareness, there's a duality in that. And it gets very confusing. So I don't know. I just feel like, I want to separate the pure diamonds, the real diamonds, from the fake diamonds. And I feel like that there are fake diamonds out there as well. And I don't know whether you know as well from your, from your instincts and your level of consciousness, whether you're able to spot the fake diamonds and separate the wheat from the chaff. Are there a lot of fake diamonds out there that are fake?
I think it's not something that you need to worry about. I think that all that needs to happen is just to resonate with this message and just keep using everything as your teacher. I can't remember who said this, but I remember hearing many a times, it's not when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, but the teacher doesn't need to be enlightened or not enlightened. It's like when you're ready, you'll hear the truths in everything, because it's your nature. It is what you are. So to me, what's important is seeing everything as a teacher. Everything has something which points to that which is beyond you. You could go down endless rabbit holes trying to find true teachers or true enlightened people or not enlightened people, and it would also be impossible to define, because what I realized from many years of being in this subject is that everyone has a different definition of it. So to me, I think my definition would be different from Tony Parsons. I think I used to think it was the same, but then over the years I realized that I have a different definition. But then I also have a different definition from Rupert Spira as well. I'm not too sure what his definition is. And I don't see any conflict in that. But I can imagine to a mind that is very juicy to keep holding on to. And so to me, I just wouldn't get involved in that. I would just go with what resonates with your heart, and then just allow things to contradict and to clash with each other. So one person says this is fake, and this person says this is fake, and this person says this is true, and it's just yeah, that's their opinion. What about how does it make me feel? What do I feel here? We do love this story as a society and as an individual. It comes to the story of good and bad, and hell and heaven, and Satan and God. It's and also with Jesus, the Savior story, this, the idea of him being killed for what he taught, and then in the end being right, and all these other people are wrong. It's kind of one of our addictions as a society. So much of our TV and film is based on this. Who is right and who is wrong, and then who do we follow and who do we not follow? Because in the past, on the human level, that's what's made us successful in survival, and then what's also made failure. But I just wouldn't bring it into your spiritual search, because what you're looking for is that which is beyond the thinking mind. It sits right here, right now. And then in the personal world, everything that happens is reflecting that. It just doesn't seem like it to the person, but as the person reconditions itself, it will see everything is reflecting it. But what you look for is beyond the person. It's without words, and it's in everything that happens. Everything. It's in the sound of my voice, it's in Tony's voice, it's in Rupert's voice, it's in the sky, it's in the windows, it's in the walls. It's your essence, it's that sense of being alive and that empty looking. And when the person comes in and says, I got this right, I got this wrong, who's the right teacher, who's the wrong teacher, who's the best, who's the worst, who can I trust, who can I not trust, and it gets hooked onto these bandwagons and goes into a circular motion. And just seeing that none of that is true, what you're looking for is what you are, is what's looking, is what's experiencing. And all of that is based on the survival and a human obsession. So if we go back into the human world, on the human level, I would follow that which opens your heart, because as your heart opens, you're more in contact with that which is beyond the heart. So that which is expansive, like that feels like the natural flow of the human, like coming out of this expansiveness. And it really doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong.
No,
you
I agree.
you don't need to save yourself from all the wrong people.
No, absolutely. As you said, pure awareness doesn't care about what's right or wrong. It allows for everything.
Yeah.
It's just interesting because there's been a prophecy in some of the scriptures, and they've said that it will reach a time when there'll be so many teachers in the market, it'll be flooded, the truth will be flooded with so many, and you won't know which ones are real and which ones aren't, but it will be. But it's just interesting with the prophecy. But as you said, that's just a story, and all we have is this very moment and what is. But
you could look at that.
you can see I guess you can see the trajectory of things as well. Isn't there a way of, like, you can't predict the future? There's no point of thinking into the future, but there is a kind of trajectory that you see as well. That like we see the trajectory of the internet where it's going. It's not happened. There's no point thinking about the future. All there is what is right now. But you do see the trajectory of things as well, don't you?
Yeah.
I
guess you could also see it though, like that prophecy, as a state of mind. Like, so it's rather than something that's happening to you that's out there with all these teachers, it's like a state of your mind. It's like a dream. So if you imagined this whole reality, a projection of your mind, and everything is a dream, it's like there becomes a point where your mind is like all these teachings and is like obsessed with teachings and is flooded with teachings. It's like a phase that the dream goes through. And it gets lost, like in a desert, like of all these different teachings, like what one could possibly be right. So you could see all of this as a projection of your mind, that the market is flooded. Like you could replace that with the mind is flooded with all these teachings.
Yeah.
And that manifests as like a market full of lots of different teachings. And then all that time, while that's happening, there is this watching that's never moved. There is this expansiveness that's here, that's free, this beingness, this I amness or amness that is ever present.
See, by you saying that brings me into the presence. I feel like, but then I can easily slip back into story. What do I do there? Then when you say that, do I just keep on? I know there are other speakers as well that just remind me of the present moment, of this expansiveness, and then I change from portrait mode to landscape mode, and everything feels right here, right now.
I don't really know what the answer is. The answer is, I suppose, what appears. But I don't really know what the answer is But here we are, there is this watching, and words come out or don't come out, or there is the dropping into this, or the going into storyland. And in the end, I don't know what would be the best thing for you to do.
Mm.
I just know this, really. That's all you know as well. It could be that the part of you that asks, what should I do or what shouldn't I do, is like a part of your psychology, like from childhood, like wanting direction. So it feels like it's real, it feels like that's important to you. But it could be that it's part of your insecurity as childhood, like you didn't know which way to go in childhood, so now it gets projected into your current life experience. It's just noticing.
Yeah, no, that's no, certainly, definitely a valid point.
Just noticing that question, and noticing the want for that outside confirmation, and that all happens inside the story, and there is something that's watching all of that, that's free.
Yeah, no, I'm watching myself, the urge now to want to say something. It's not appreciating the moment for now. It's weird, the ego, it just shape shifts into so many different characters.
Yeah.
And I've got a punisher, someone who's optimistic, someone who's frightened, who's a victim, but they're all the same ego, but they can shapeshift very quickly, and they're all kind of like thoughts that are attacking other thoughts, and then there's this one which wants to, say something, eager to say something, and you watch it. It's almost like sometimes it's just there at the throat or at that area, and it's just waiting to jump, but you just watch it then, and it's just like hovering at the door, just waiting to come through. And like you watch it, and then it just stands back. It's like it knows it's being watched.
Yeah. And this watching is so interesting because the watching is you cannot find it. So it's unattainable, the watching, like you cannot obtain it, you cannot find it, but yet the watching is happening. There is this stillness that's looking, that's beyond anything in form. And it's so still and empty and free and expansive. And it's love.
Oh. It's resting in peace. When they rest in, I feel like it's resting in peace. The term rest in peace.
Yeah.
It's not meant for the dead. It's meant for the living. It's when you're actually abiding in yourself, in your true nature.
Yeah.
That's what resting in peace means. And it happens sporadically, but I know when it comes, there's no care in the world. Your problems just melt away.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Thank you so much for your time, Lisa.
Oh, it's really a pleasure, Chris. Really, really lovely to speak with you. Yeah.
No, likewise.
Yeah. Thank you for your questions.
No problem. You have a good evening.
Yeah, thanks. Lots of love.
Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.